Can two shivering girls in a snowstorm change a broken man's life forever? Welcome to Once Upon a Voice, where miracles are found in the cold. A single dad saw little twin girls abandoned on the road on Christmas Eve, but when 5-year-old Faith whispered who really left them there and how long they'd been waiting in the freezing snow, his whole world shifted in ways he never saw coming. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you're tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories travel at Once Upon a Voice. Will this Christmas Eve bring a miracle or heartbreak? Stay with us to find out. Drop a comment. What's the kindest thing someone's done for you? Let's dive in. Michael Brennan had been driving empty back roads for 3 hours, trying to escape the suffocating silence of another Christmas Eve alone, when his headlights caught something that made his blood run cold. 2 small figures barely visible through swirling snow. Huddled on the side of Route 47, at first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks. Snow fell heavily, visibility worsening by the minute. But as his truck drew closer, his heart nearly stopped. They were children's 2 little girls in matching pink coats, holding hands in the darkness, 20 miles from the nearest town. Michael slammed on his brakes, his truck sliding on the icy road before stopping. His hands shook as he threw the gear into park and turned on hazard lights. Every instinct from his years as a sheriff's deputy kicked in. He grabbed his emergency flashlight and stepped into the bitter wind. "Hey there!" he called softly, not wanting to frighten them. The smaller girl was crying, her body shaking, while her sister wrapped an arm protectively around her. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" The braver twin looked up with enormous brown eyes, holding a fear no child should have. Snow gathered. In her dark hair, her lips turning blue from cold. "Our aunt," she said, her voice barely audible over the wind. "She said to wait here. Someone would come for us." Michael's stomach dropped as he scanned the desolate road, no houses for miles. No broken down cars, no sign of an adult. Just woods, darkness, and relentless snow. The nearest home was 2 miles away, and in this weather, that might as well have been 20. "Sweetheart, how long have you been waiting?" The quieter twin spoke, her voice so small he leaned in. Since the sun was up, the words hit like a blow. He glanced at his watch past 7 p.m. These children had been abandoned for over 8 hours on Christmas Eve in a worsening snowstorm. His hands clenched, but he kept his voice calm. "My name's Michael." "What are your names?" "I'm Grace," said the braver one, trembling. "This is my sister, Faith." "Those are beautiful names. Listen, Grace, Faith, it's very cold out here and it's not safe. How about you sit in my warm truck while we figure out how to find your aunt?" The girls exchanged glances, torn between desperation for warmth and fear of strangers. He showed them his phone's lock screen, an old photo in his sheriff's deputy uniform. "I used to be a police officer," he said gently, kneeling in the snow to their eye level. "I promise. I just want to help you get safe and warm." Grace made a decision too heavy for someone so young and nodded. Michael helped them into his truck, his heart breaking at how light they were, how their tiny bodies shook. He cranked the heat, grabbed an emergency blanket from the glove compartment, and wrapped it around them. They huddled on the passenger seat like 2 birds seeking warmth. From his thermos, he poured hot chocolate into the lid, patrol habit for cold nights. "Here, this'll warm you up. Share it carefully, okay?" They sipped, passing it with practiced fairness. Michael tried to piece together what kind of monster would abandon children in a blizzard. "Kay, you tell me your aunt's name?" He pulled out his phone to call for help. No signal. The storm must have knocked out the nearest tower. "Aunt Carol," Grace said, her voice stronger as warmth returned. "But she's not really our aunt. She told us to call her that." The story came in fragments, each more heartbreaking. Their mother, Angela, died 6 months ago from a brain aneurysm, leaving them orphaned. Their father signed away his rights when they were babies. They'd been bounced between 3 foster homes. The first family was okay, Grace said quietly, but they couldn't keep us. The second had too many kids, and Aunt Carol. Kay, Michael asked gently. Faith's small voice answered. She didn't like us, said we ate too much, were too loud, Grace added. Even when we tried to be really, really quiet. Even when we whispered. Michael's jaw tightened as he navigated snowy roads toward town. He'd seen much in law enforcement, but crimes against children were the hardest. And what else was this? But a crime? She got money for keeping us, Grace continued, wise beyond her years in the worst way. We heard her on the phone. She said we weren't worth the check. This morning she drove us out here, said our real family was coming, that we just had to. Wait, but nobody came, Faith whispered, tears starting. I thought maybe we were bad, and that's why nobody wanted us. Michael took a deep breath to steady his voice. 3 years ago, he'd lost his daughter, Sophie, and wife, Catherine. In an accident, a delivery driver checking his phone stole his world. He thought he knew heartbreak, but these abandoned children opened a new wound. Listen to me, both. Of you, he said firmly. You are not bad. This isn't your fault. Adults are supposed to protect children, not hurt them. Your Aunt Carol did a very wrong thing. I'll make sure she never does it again. Can 2 little girls and a grieving man become a family? Keep watching Once Upon a Voice to witness a Christmas miracle unfold. The Millbrook police station had a skeleton crew when they arrived. Deputy Janet Walker, a friend from Michael's days on the force, looked up in surprise. Michael, what brings you out in this storm? Her eyes fell on the twins, clinging to each other. And who are these sweethearts? Amico explained in clipped tones, keeping his anger in check. Janet's face darkened with each detail. She made calls, but the news wasn't good. Roads are impassable in half the county, she said quietly, while the girls played with a puzzle in the break room, content to be warm and safe. What about emergency foster families? Janet shook her head, all full. It's Christmas Eve, Michael. The only option tonight is the county shelter. They both knew the shelter, overcrowded, chaotic. No place for traumatized girls failed by every adult but their late mother. Michael looked at Grace and Faith. Grace helped her sister with the puzzle. Patient and protective, while Faith leaned against her, recovering. Something frozen in his chest for 3 years cracked. I'll take them, he said. Janet's eyebrows shot up. Michael, I still have my foster certification from before. He'd gotten it years ago when he and Catherine struggled to conceive, thinking fostering might be their path. Then Sophie, their miracle baby, arrived, and it became irrelevant. He'd kept it current, though he couldn't say why. Maybe some part knew he'd need it. Are you sure? Janet asked softly. I know Christmas is hard for you. They need somewhere safe tonight. I have space. The paperwork was expedited for the emergency. Driving the girls to his house, Michael wondered what he was doing. For 3 years, he'd moved through his home like a ghost. Catherine's coffee mug sat by the sink, Sophie's drawings on the fridge, her room untouched. Is this your house? Faith asked as they pulled into the driveway of the 2-story colonial, once filled with laughter. Yes, it is. It's pretty, Grace said softly. Like a house in a storybook. A happy house. Only if she knew, Michael thought. But nodded and helped them inside. He turned up the heat, showed them around, his footsteps echoing in silent rooms. Pausing at Sophie's room, his hand trembled on the doorknob. Behind it was a museum of her 6-year stuffed animals. Books, soft pink walls she'd picked for her 5th birthday. But these girls needed a place to sleep, and somehow he knew. Sophie would want them to have it. He opened the door. Her teddy bear sat on the pillow, drawings tacked to the bulletin board. Calendars stuck on December 3rd, 3 years ago, with Christmas in her shaky handwriting, decorated with crayon stars. The twins stood uncertainly. Whose room is this? Grace asked. Michael's throat tightened. It belonged to my daughter. She's not here anymore. Faith slipped her small hand into his, nearly undoing him. Is she in heaven with our mommy? The innocent question broke something in his chest. Yes, I think they're probably friends up there. Sophie would be happy you're using her room. What was she like? Grace asked. She was bright, funny, loved to draw like you, Faith. And always asked questions, like you, Grace. She'd have liked you both. He made grilled cheese and tomato soup, the only thing his depleted pantry allowed. He'd survived on frozen dinners for so long, he'd forgotten cooking for others. The girls ate like it was a feast, thanking him with every bite. At Aunt Carol's, we got one meal a day, Faith said quietly. She said we were too expensive. Michael's hands clenched around his mug. He made them each another sandwich. He found Sophie's closed unicorn pajamas for Faith, star ones for Grace, their threadbare coats and hole-filled shoes stuffed with newspaper. Went into the laundry dot as bedtime neared. Grace asked hesitantly, Mr. Michael, we don't have presents. For tomorrow. Santa doesn't know we're here. He probably went to Aunt Carol's, but we weren't good enough for her, so maybe not for presents either. The matter-of-fact tone made Michael want to find Carol, but he stopped himself. Do you know what? He said, kneeling. Santa's smart. Sometimes he leaves extra presents just in case someone special needs them. Let's check in the morning after they slept. Curled together in Sophie's bed, Michael went to the garage. Under a tarp dusted with 3 years were Sophie's unopened Christmas presents books. Art supplies, a science kit for her questions. He'd never returned them. They'd waited for tonight. He placed them under the grudgingly erected tree, which looked less lonely now. He called Janet, who promised clothes and necessities in the morning, weather permitting. Then he slept in his bed, not the recliner, keeping the door open for the girls' nightmares. Faith's whimper woke him at 3 a.m. I dreamed we were back on the road. She sobbed. Nobody came. Michael gathered her, Grace pressing against his. Other side? You're safe now. You're not on that road. You're here. Warm, safe. But what if you don't want us either? Grace asked. What if we're too much trouble? Aunt Carol said nobody would want us. How do you convince children there? Worth keeping. Listen, he said firmly. What Carol did was wrong. You're not trouble. You're brave, kind, smart girls who deserve love. As long as you need a place, you're welcome here. They nodded, and he stayed until they slept, guarding against their fears. Will Christmas morning bring healing? Stay with Once Upon a Voice. To see love transform 3 lives. Morning came with giggles. Michael found them staring at the presents with wonder he hadn't seen in 3 years. Santa found us, Faith exclaimed. He knew we were here. He always does, Michael said, smiling. It hurt less than expected. They opened gifts with infectious joy art supplies for Faith, books for Grace, dolls they called sisters, board games. Grace saved every piece of wrapping paper. We can use it to wrap presents for others someday. Her optimism made him step to the kitchen to compose himself. Janet arrived with proper winter coats, boots without holes, colorful sweaters. We found Carol Hutchins, she said, quietly. She's arrested, admitted to abandoning them, planned it for weeks, told CPS they ran away to keep the checks. What happens now? Their case is reviewed after the holidays, but they have no one. Their mother had no relatives. Their father terminated rights. They'll go back to the system, likely separated. Most families won't take 2. No, Michael said, they stay together. Then I'll keep them, both of them. Janet studied him. That's big, Michael. You've been through a lot. So have they. I've had only loss. I had 3 good years with my family. They deserve better. Over days, the house shifted. Silent spaces filled with sound. Faith's drawings joined Sophie's. On the fridge, Grace's voice read aloud. The kitchen table hosted meals and homework. Michael cooked real dinners, packed lunches, checked for monsters. Grace pretended she was too old but looked relieved, read bedtime stories. The girls had nightmares. Faith about the cold, Grace about separation, but Michael was there, comforting. standing guard. His grief counselor asked, "Are you doing this because you miss having children, or because these girls need you?" It wasn't about replacing Sophie, she was irreplaceable. This was about Grace and Faith, who saved wrapping paper, thanked him for every meal, shared everything deserved to be chosen. On New Year's Eve, watching a recorded ball drop, Faith curled against him. "Mr. Michael, do we have to leave?" Grace tensed, waiting. "No," he said firmly. "You're not leaving, not if you don't want to." "Really?" Grace asked, hopeful. "We'll make it official. Would you like to stay permanently? Become a family." They threw their arms around him. "We can be your daughters," Faith asked. "Real daughters forever." "Forever and ever," Michael confirmed. Holding them tight, the adoption took 6 months, home visits, court dates, endless paperwork. The girls kept Sophie's room, adding their drawings and books. Grace joined the reading club. Faith's art teacher saw talent and enrolled her in a program. They called him Dad by spring, Grace. First casually, then Faith. The first time, Michael teared up. Not just from grief, but joy and sorrow. Mixed. Catherine's sister visited, worried. But seeing him with the girls helping Grace with a solar system project, teaching Faith to mix colors, she understood. "They're not replacing Sophie," she said. "No," Michael agreed. "My heart's bigger than I thought. There's room for all. On the next Christmas Eve, they started a tradition. Driving to where he found them, installing a weatherproof box with blankets, hand warmers, food, and his number. "If you need help, you're not alone." They delivered. Presents to the shelter, served dinner at the community center. The girls gave away toys, Grace's books, Faith's drawings. That night, Faith said, "Daddy, I think Sophie sent us to you." Grace nodded. "So you wouldn't be alone on Christmas, and we wouldn't either. She knew we needed each other." Michael kissed their foreheads. "I think you're right. Is it okay we talk about her?" Grace asked, "Does it make you sad?" "No, sweetheart. It makes me happy. She's part of our family story, like your mom. We can talk about them anytime." Watching them sleep, Faith reaching for Grace. Grace's arm over her sister, Michael whispered, "Thanks to Catherine for teaching him love, Sophie for joy, Angela for these souls, and whatever force put him on that road." He'd thought he was escaping grief, but he'd driven into a new chapter. The twins didn't replace his lost family. They created a new one, real and precious. His heart's hole wouldn't fully heal. Catherine and Sophie would always be missed, but Grace and Faith showed a broken heart, could still love, protect, be a home. 6 months post-adoption, on Father's Day, the girls ran in with cards. Grace's had words about him saving them, being the best dad. Faith's had drawings, including an angel labeled Sophie. "Our teacher asked us to write about our heroes," Faith said. "I wrote about you. You didn't just save us from the cold, you saved us from being alone forever." Grace added, "You gave us a family when everyone gave up." "You're our hero." Michael held them, thinking of 3 broken hearts finding each other in the snow. A family, forged by choice, love, refusal to let go. Sometimes the greatest gifts wear thin pink coats, hold hands in the snow, wait to be chosen. Michael found his reason. Grace and Faith found their home. Together, they learned love doesn't divide, it multiplies, heals. Transforms to abandoned girls and a grieving father into something beautiful, whole, worth fighting for a family. The truth that stunned Michael wasn't just that someone could abandon children, but that in saving them, they saved him, giving purpose, love, a future. Every Christmas Eve, continuing their tradition, he'd squeeze their hands, thanking the universe for them. Families aren't just who you're born to, they're who shows up, stays, refuses to let you face the cold alone. That snowy night, 3 lost souls showed up, and that made all the difference. If this story reminded you miracles happen, that families are found in unexpected places. Subscribe to Once Upon a Voice and share. Someone out there needs to hear They're worth choosing, loving, saving, just like grace and faith, just like Michael, just like all of us.